A child doesn't need your constant evaluation of who he or she is. Your support, encouragement, and constructive mirroring is good enough to shape what he or she can be, which is why evaluate performance, but not your child. Life gives us so many examinations at various junctures. Despite evaluation being a very core component of our life, across generations, we still feel a lot of fear and anxiety when it comes to evaluations in our professional sphere, in our personal sphere, in our social sphere. And some of the most early on exposure of these evaluations is our academic performance. When the academic performance is good, it is reinforced with something like, it could have been better. When the academic performance is poor, of course, there's a lot of disappointment, which is often conveyed to the child. Now, what this does is that it can have a cascading effect of self-doubt and poor self-concept. As parents, we all begin to instill at a very early on age with our children about values in terms of good and bad. We want them to understand and demarcate what is good and what is not good. But despite the best of intentions, it often gets miscommunicated or misinterpreted unknowingly in the form of self-characterization of good child and bad child, and that happens through our own communication. So for child, where they tend to link up their sense of self-esteem with good performance, with the sense of popularity that they have in their social sphere, if the child scores well, their self-confidence goes up, their self-esteem goes up. If the child has scored poorly, their self-esteem and self-confidence goes low. Similarly, if they have lots of friends, if they're popular, they feel confident. If they are little hesitant, shy, they automatically begin to feel that they are not very confident and that they're socially more withdrawn, and they feel shy and have a poor sense of self-esteem. What is important for us as parents is to be very mindful and have a constructive approach on how we are helping our children evaluate the performance and the behavior by keeping their sense of self separate. Every child has certain abilities, capabilities, traits as an individual. And it's important that while we keep that aspect absolutely intact, the sense of self absolutely intact, we separate it from the performance and the behavior that they show in their day-to-day life. Which means when we are talking to them, we help in building self-awareness in our children, and at the same time also take a more cognitive approach to their performance. So you talk about the why, how, and what of the results, and even the social aspect for that matter. And you can do that by, one, refraining from having or making any kind of an emotionally demeaning using any kind of emotionally demeaning words while you're communicating to them about this. It's equally important to also keep your own negative feelings around their performance and behavior away. Address those first, otherwise your communication and in your conversation with them, you are going to convey this in some way or the other, which the child is going to internalize in terms of a good and a bad characterization of their own sense of self. And it again does no good, because the child develops and experiences feelings of guilt, shame, and anger. When you have a more problem-solving approach to the evaluation and the behavior, the child is able to see where a change is required, where the child feels less defensive of protecting their own selves and just look at the problem at hand. And this needs to happen between you and your child through a more constructive communication, where you're able to help them understand that behavior and performance is separate from who they are as an individual. When you're able to do that, that's how you are able to keep a self-esteem which is positive, and it also enhances the self-confidence.